Welcome back to the Authority X Factor podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Schuknecht. And in my book, Unlocking Your Authority X Factor, I talk about how your Authority X Factor is that unique intersection of your career path, your lived experience, and your specific skills that make you the go to person in your field. Today's guest is the perfect example of someone who has mastered that intersection. Ramona Cedeno is a capital readiness expert who helps founders and leaders build businesses that are prepared for opportunity before it even arrives. With over 20 years of experience as a CPA and CFP, Ramona has navigated the high stakes financial worlds of Fortune 500 companies like Time Inc., as well as high growth startups. But what makes Ramona a true thought leader isn't just her technical depth, it's the way she's used her visibility engine to step out from behind the spreadsheets. She is the founder and CEO of FiBrick, a sought after keynote speaker and the author of the book Simple Choices, Big Rewards in Money. Today, we're going to talk about her journey from senior finance leadership to becoming a visible authority, how she makes complex financial topics accessible, and how she's built a personal brand that attracts capital and confidence in equal measure. Ramona, with that introduction, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kelly. I'm so happy to be here with you today. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Yes. Well, so much of what I said is it's so true. You have mastered visibility. I get the pleasure of working with you. So, I know you well, but also just, every time I look at your YouTube, look at your LinkedIn, like you are just incredibly visible and out there and active, speaking, doing all the things that really make you stand out as the leading expert, the go-to person in your industry. So I want to start out with you defining in your own words what your authority X factor is. And just as a reminder, the way I define authority X factor is that unique intersection of your skills, your experiences, the things that have brought you to where you are now as the go-to in your industry. How would you describe your authority X factor and what makes you uniquely qualified to serve the clients in the way that you do?
That's a great question. I love it. I have to say that my authority X factor, I think it has been always my passion for financial freedom. I start there because everything we do for business owners and for the business is always with that aim in mind is what will this do for the stakeholders, for the business owner, for the employees of that company? From an early age, I was very focused on financial empowerment, financial freedom. I want to have my money for this or for that, right? For to move away from my hometown in the Dominican Republic, whatever it was. And that passion to be financially free myself has transmitted to my clients through the work that we do with the companies, but also with the business owners. So when someone works with us, and everything that we do is always from the lens of how does that feed not only the business's bottom line, but your personal finances. And I have this expertise in personal financial planning, which was a certification that I got on purpose to service my clients better, but a lot of experience around tax planning and the overall business management so that the personal finances can ultimate benefit from anything the business owner does within the business.
I love it. It's interesting. I have been in the world of accounting marketing for many years, right? So working to uh, promote, market accounting firms, which can be seen as very boring and very, like it's kind of dry, in the idea of it. However, I have seen from working with you that your topics really resonate because it's not just, hire me as your accountant. You have you have these topics that are very much of interest to business owners. It's that capital readiness. And like you said, talked about financial freedom. So when you go and speak with women, talking about financial freedom. So I know some of your topics, but I'd love for you to describe some of those topics that you go out and speak on a regular basis.
Yes, I talk about capital readiness, exit readiness, profitability, pricing, and all comes down to the same thing. How do we view our self-worth as business owners, as individuals, and what do we need to do to improve if that's something that we are struggling with. How the way that we acquire clients will impact the way we service those clients, and then ultimately how much money we make from those engagements. So all of these are topics that we can talk about with clients. But if I had to summarize them into five, it would be yes, have your business always operate in a way that anyone wants to invest in it as a lender or as an investor. And big on that. Create a business or build a business that is profitable, that's really truly profitable. Not that you see that it's making $200,000, $500,000 a year in net profit, but how do you feel by what you're generating that profit? Is it that you're working 60 hours a week, 80 hours a week? I know we can say that we don't work 60 hours a week, and we always do, right? But the idea is that it's profitable, but also giving you the life that you want. The other topic is charge what you are worth, what you deserve. And it's not just, I am going to charge double what my competitors are charging, but I am giving this extra value to my clients, and that has a value. And by adding this value to my clients, their lives are going to be better. I'm making their lives better. So what I'm doing is worth more, right? So pricing is big. And then financial freedom and financial planning for 30 years from now when you don't want to do this. What else are you going to do? What else is your business going to do for you financially? And that could be thinking about not only how much you're going to sell your business for and making it attractive to someone to pay top dollars for it, but what can you do after with these experiences that you have gained over the last X number of years? What is going to fulfill you once your business is not here? That is still kind of aligned with what you have done over the last large number of years that you love and you're passionate about.
Yeah. Yeah. So walk me back, Ramona, to when you first, actually, when you talk about the CFP and PFP, I'm thinking of my daughter because she is a junior in college and she is a business finance major and she's thinking about getting her CFP or her PFP. She's very interested in that path. So it's funny, like talking to you now at this stage and knowing like my daughter at her stage and just her interest in that. But talk to me about when you were first kind of starting out, what did you think your career path was going to look like?
I knew I was going to be an accountant at the age of 19. I was always really interested in math and science and every subject probably. And my teachers used to tell me that I could pursue any career I wanted just because I was driven and I had good grades. Okay, great. One day I met someone who was an accountant just right before I went to college, and she was telling me about what she did and how she managed other people's monies. And I was like, okay, I'm good with math. I love money. So this makes sense for me. And so I decided that at the age of 19, I was still in the Dominican Republic. And when I came to the US a few months later, I started in accounting. And I love the profession. I love what it does for us as business owners and for the public. And after many years in accounting, I worked for Bloomberg, I worked for Time Inc. I decided to start my own practice. And I wanted to get into personal financial planning. And I had no idea what that entailed. But it was, okay, this is the best way to help people manage their money and grow their wealth. And soon I realized within the first few months that you have to do a lot of work to sell products in personal in the wealth management world. And I
Mm.
didn't want to do that. I just wanted to advise. So I had already started my certification in and certified in financial planning. So I decided to combine that with my accounting experience and incorporate my learnings from the financial planning area to combining that with accounting and service my clients better. So it's like the perfect of the two of both worlds. I really, really love like helping people build wealth. And I love building my own wealth, of course. We all do, right? And to have the opportunity to do that for businesses and business owners was like amazing. And I did not know this before. It wasn't planned. It just kind of figured it out as I was building FiBrick.
Yeah. Well, so you say as you were building FiBrick. So at what point did you start FiBrick? When did you know that you wanted to do your own thing and not work at these big organizations where you had been previously?
10 years ago. I was working after leaving Bloomberg. I worked for a tech startup and I was there for a year and a half and it was insane. Loved the environment and the energy. And that's where I learned about technology and what was happening in that space because I had been at a company for 10 years where it was Bloomberg was very tech forward, of course, but I was in the accounting team. It's a large company. I didn't see everything that was happening in the research and development team and the tech support team or even at the service, the client service level. So when I went to this tech company, I was just amazed at what everyone was doing, like how all the pieces work together in the background, how much you had to invest in technology to connect one person to the next, right? And maybe now it's easier. I was there for a year and a half and it was intense. And one day I was like, okay, I left a 9 to 5. This is not what I signed up for. I'm going to take a break. And during that break, everyone, well, many people, my husband, my friends, were telling me, why don't you start your own practice? And I was like, I have worked for so many years, nice jobs, vacation, benefits. And my husband said, what's the worst that can happen? You can always go back. And I said, okay, I think he's right. And I sent out an email to my friends. I'm starting my practice, send me referrals. And someone sent me my first referral that same week. And that's it. From there, it was just moving forward and doing different things, as you know, not just, I did know that I didn't want to just sit in the back of an office. Um, like we say, crunching numbers and plugging numbers. I wanted to be client facing and it's out there selling and marketing and have a team. So I started that from early on.
And you talk about being out there in marketing and you do a lot of speakings. How did you kind of when in the process of 10 years ago you started FiBrick, when did you start going out and speaking? Because you really have a very great presence that way. You do a lot of speaking, you have a lot of photos and videos of you speaking. Your YouTube presence is amazing. What did the progression of that look like for you?
Well, that's a whole different story on its own. I was very afraid of public speaking forever, like for,
What?
yes, right up until the point that I started FiBrick. I believe that my career didn't move forward or upward faster because I was afraid to speak up in rooms, management teams, presentations. I used to say I pay someone so I don't have to speak. Now I'm like, I want to speak, pay me, right? And I had an experience at my last job where this was really uncomfortable for me in a boardroom. And I said, this has to stop. I need to take charge. I need to control this. And I went to training for public speaking, pronunciation, diction, everything that was in my head that was impacting the way I showed up. I said, if I'm going to do this work, I might as well do it for some benefit, right? And initially it was to bring business to FiBrick. So the way it started was by volunteering as a mentor of an organization or an initiative in New York City. There was the Women Entrepreneurs of New York City. If you're a mentor, you had the opportunity to do presentations and run webinars. And I remember the first time I saw this, I was in Harlem. I went to their event and I saw these ladies on stage presenting and I was like, I want to do that. Everything happened together at the same time. When I say I'm going to do something, I'm like, I do the 10 steps within 2 weeks and I'm done and I'm there. But I went up to the ladies and I said, how do I become a mentor? They signed me up. I was volunteering like the next week and I went to Brooklyn to do my first mentorship session. And I remember I was so scared. It was only 6 ladies, but the director was with me and I told her like, this makes me so nervous. And she said, don't worry, I got you. It was great. And from there, I volunteered for every opportunity that I had. And it just got better and better. And eventually I said, okay, now everyone wants me to speak for them. How do I do this? How do we make this a business now?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's amazing. I wonder if, I don't know, I wonder if that's a similar path for people like being in an audience and looking at somebody speaking and going like, I want to do this, right? Because I remember having that moment as well where I was horrified of public speaking, but I would go to conferences and I would be like, I could have taught that. Like I could, and you start recognizing maybe in yourself that like, I think the 20 years of experience I've had has led me to be able to teach people something.
Exactly. And people want to hear about those experiences. I think they want to hear. I hope they want to hear. But no, I put myself in their shoes and I put myself in the shoes of the audience. And when I hear women and men speak, I like what they're saying. And I say to myself, I wouldn't have thought of looking that information up. Like especially when someone is speaking on stage and they're bringing something that you wouldn't have thought of searching on the web, right? Like it's something that it didn't even occur to me. That tip I didn't hear before, and I wouldn't have thought of asking that question that will give me that tip. I think that's the best. And I put myself in the audience shoes and I said, okay, I want to hear what they have to say. So I will find what people might want to hear that I have to say.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, so tell me about your book, Simple Choices, Big Rewards in Money. At what point did you write your book? So you started FiBrick 10 years ago. When did the book come out?
In 2022. So it's
Okay.
pre-chat GPT. I had to say that.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'll do if I had to write another book now. I did a program at Columbia University. It was the Columbia Community Business Program. It was for entrepreneurs, and the facilitator of that program was challenging us. She was challenging us to do something that would be good for our business, and everyone had different ideas. Pivot and start a new product, and she said to me, Ramona, I think what would be good for you is to write a book. I mean, someone tells you how to write a book, you're like, I'm not a writer. How am I going to do this, right? And but I like a good challenge. I don't know if you have noticed that from everything that I do comes from a challenge, okay? From some type of challenge. Even if I go to when I was 15 and what challenged me to pursue accounting and my interest in managing money well. So I found a program to help me write the book. It's self-published, but they guided me through 6 months of writing and editing, and I had to do that through tax season and all the seasons in the year. And I used to get up at 6 a.m. and write for 3 hours every day. And it was hard because it's a book about my personal stories, but I don't have enough personal stories, I thought, to write a full book. But I actually had personal stories about money. I have a ton of personal stories. That's a different book. But I had interviews with people that I admire that had managed their money well, including my sisters and some clients that volunteered to share their stories with me.
How have you used that book? So I think trying to think of my guests so far to this point. Well, actually, my last guest has a book too. I was going to say I think you're my first guest who has a book, but the last interview I did, he also had a book. But I want to hear about how you're using that book in your overall thought leadership strategy.
Yes, the book is not about entrepreneurship. The book is about personal finances. And when I started writing the book, I was debating whether I wrote a book about business ownership and business finances. But again, my passion really is at the personal level. Like, how can we improve your life? And so I said, I'm going to write this book, even if it's not directly related to what I do today for small business owners. It's directly related to their personal lifestyle. When I wrote the book, my intention was to use it as a tool to get speaking engagements, and it has done serve that purpose. And one of the great things about having the book in that area is that I have been able to create financial literacy programs and events for the students community. I have done work with the Department of Education in New York City and other organizations around financial literacy. And I am so happy to hear, not to hear because I worked on this with the Society of CPAs, but I'm so happy to see that now New York State has a regulation that will make the Department of Education include some financial literacy training in some of the school years. And it was so good to see that because it's something that I have been pushing for, and I would love to, always wanted to see it. I hope all states have something like that. But the book has served that purpose of bringing visibility to what I'm passionate about and what I advocate for.
That's great. I love it. Well, so Ramona, in my book, I talk about day one you, and we started the conversation with talking about, the beginning of your career when you set out to be an accountant. What if you could talk to your day one you, which actually might be like my daughter right now, right? Like that might be the day one you version. What advice, knowing what you know now after a couple decades of working in this industry and getting more and more kind of specialized and specific in your knowledge and your industry that you work with, what advice would you give yourself now?
I did it all alone, and I think I know I would advise myself to just pair up, ask for help, follow all those footsteps, ask for advice, mentorship, learn from others, not just from the books, right? So not just go through college and read these books and do the math and do the homework and just follow that path that is set in the curriculum, but go outside of that and talk to people that are doing what you want to do one day. I wish I had done that earlier, and it could have been that the opportunity wasn't there. It wasn't as common to ask for help, right? But that would have been something that would have made a big difference in my career. And so for your daughter and for everyone who's starting out now, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be college or early career. It could be switching to another field. The best thing to do for yourself is to ask others to mentor you, to help you, or just to give you their input on something that you are trying to explore.
That's great. 'Cause yeah, you're not alone. There are other people out there who have been where you are or who are doing what you're trying to do. There's so many people out there that we can go to for advice and help along the way. So I think that's great advice.
And that people that are willing to help. A lot of us are like dying to share what we know. And we are available to help others if they have that drive and determination to pursue those dreams.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Well, Ramona, for our guests, our listeners, our viewers, where can they find out more about you? So we can link to your book, Simple Choices, Big Rewards and Money. We can link to that in the show notes. Where else can people interact with you, find out more about what you do and how you can help them?
Yeah, so the accounting firm FiBrick for accounting purposes and fractional CFO and tax advisory, we are at fibrick.com. Ramona Cedeno is on LinkedIn. I respond to all my messages and I won't give my email, my personal number otherwise, but I'll definitely connect with you on Instagram and LinkedIn if you send me a message. And on Fibrick, you can schedule a consultation with me.
Perfect. Great. Well, Ramona, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your authority X factor with us. You have a very great platform and you know your client well, and you're a perfect example of discovering what makes you unique and how you're best able to serve your clients. So thanks for sharing that with us.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you. This is great. Great conversation.
Thanks for watching. My book, Unlocking Your Authority X Factor, is now available on Amazon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. See you next week.